We talk a lot about steals, and every single year there's an off-season signing that somehow slips through the cracks. Nets fans should be well aware of what it's like to unearth a steal in free agency after the tremendous Jeff Green experience from 2 seasons ago. Brooklyn is hoping to catch lightning in a bottle once again this offseason, and its best chance to do so is with TJ Warren, who is just 3 seasons removed from averaging just a shade under 20 points on 50-40-80 splits on a playoff team as a starter. Since then, Warren has played just 4 total regular season games due to a litany of foot issues, so it remains to be seen if he can still be a productive player or even stay on the court, though he is just 29 years old. For this video, we'll be analyzing his game under the lens that he does at least somewhat resemble his former self in a Brooklyn jersey. Folks, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and welcome back to Scouting New Nets. At his core, Warren is a microwave scorer, a mid-range assassin that can heat up at any moment, and here he is doing exactly that against the Cleveland Cavaliers in crunch time off 3 straight mid-range jumpers. He's especially proficient from the 4 to 12 foot range, a distance most NBA players struggle to score from, especially on two-handed jumpers. Warren, however, has made this unorthodox shot a fulcrum of his scoring portfolio, and is quite dominant from the left side of the court. As you can tell from his shot map, he's not quite as accurate from the right block. He's well below league average at just 34%. Warren won't be asked to run the offense often, but he can do so in a pinch, typically coming off pick and rolls for long 2-pointers, of which he's fairly efficient on. What's allowed Warren to ascend into becoming a high-level role player is by extending his range. He should be a great fit next to Ben Simmons due to his ability to connect from the corners, here utilizing the hop to generate some power. This clip should give you a great feel for his mechanics, a high release point but a low dip that goes well below his knees, making his shot a little bit slower. Holistically speaking, I describe him as a mostly standstill shooter. He wasn't much of a pick and pop threat in Indiana, and this is about as much relocation as you're going to see from him as a shooter. And because of his newfound shooting gravity, he can generate closer range looks if a defender takes a bad angle on a closeout. Overall, TJ Warren was efficient on floaters in his last full NBA season, but he does have this bad habit of taking one-handed flip shots way too far away from the basket. In general, I found that digs at the nail bothered Warren a little bit and caused him to pick up his dribble far too early, thus why he settled for so many of these types of shots. Yet when Warren elected to use 2 hands from this 14-foot-ish distance and let his momentum carry him forward, the results were much more crisp. Warren's not the quickest player nor the springiest athlete, and one has to wonder if his injuries will only heighten these traits, but he was a terrific finisher in the painted area in the 2019-2020 season. That said, in the half court at least, I did not find him to be an especially controlled player with the ball in his hands. He's just not great at picking his spots in a crowd, appearing overzealous amidst defensive pressure. He doesn't have those wide Kawhi Leonard-like shoulders, making it tougher for him to generate space when barreling into defenders. And because he's not all that quick nor excellent at creating space with physicality, I wouldn't rely upon him a ton to create at-rim shots in the half court. So you might be wondering, how did Warren put up such tremendous at-rim numbers despite struggling in traffic? Well, as someone who went through all of his close range makes in the 2019-2020 season, a heavy majority of these buckets came off cuts. Warren's the best backdoor cutter the Nets have had in ages, maybe since, I don't know, rookie year Rodions Kurucs, using his shooting gravity to get defenders leaning one way before displaying exquisite timing and sneaking backdoor. He's excellent at tiptoeing behind the defense from the weak side corner when his defender helps over as the low man. And his insistence on remaining in perpetual motion is maybe his best attribute and why he's such a prolific role player. Here, faking a cut to the corner before reversing his course and riding Domantas Sabonis' pin down screen into free throws. Here's another example of just how lethal Warren is off curl cuts. It helps that Warren has such great feel for spacing, vacating the area and beelining it to the rim the second the three-point line gets overcrowded. His feel for the game as an off-ball player is exquisite. Here he fakes an exit screen for Victor Oladipo as Sabonis posts up before quickly recognizing that Kevin Porter Jr. is not being attentive and he cuts to the cup. Now, based on my research, the remainder of his close range makes typically come in transition, where Warren is also particularly hellacious. Warren is a scorer at heart, meaning that he jumps at the opportunity to cherry pick for fast break buckets. His effervescent approach to leakouts will greatly enhance Brooklyn's transition offense, especially next to a passer as good as Ben Simmons. Warren can also handle and push the break, occasionally setting up teammates. Here we get an example of Warren flashing his two most prolific ancillary skills, first leaking out ahead of the pack and then tiptoeing behind his defender for a backdoor layup. Make no mistake, Warren is a shoot first, second, and third player, and that's the reason why he's never accounted for more than 7.2% of his teammates' buckets, with a career high of just 1.5 assists per game in a single season. He'll toss out the occasional nice dime in the pick and roll, but more often than not, Warren's accuracy and velocity on his passes can be fickle. I have to say, Warren was much more impactful than I expected defensively. I was impressed by how well he picked his angles as a defender in space, and how good he is at playing up into his matchup. He tends to guard up fairly close to his assignment to negate advantages from the start. And against the Bucks, he had some excellent reps against Chris Middleton, which could pay dividends assuming these two squads meet in the playoffs. And because he plays so close into guys, this gives him the opportunity to reach in for steals. Look, here's one of TJ's patented leakouts. His tendency to play closer to his matchup can get him in trouble against quicker players like Eric Bledsoe, and when he reaches in here, Andrew Wiggins gleefully gallops past him to the hole. I wouldn't characterize Warren as a disruptive defender, especially off the ball. There's probably room for a dig here on SGA, yet instead he hugs Abdel Nader closely in the corner. I did find his awareness as an off-ball defender to be lacking in spots. Here he's playing way too close to Jarrett Culver in the corner of all players, thus making Warren late on his low man rotation when Josh Okogie shook free. He'll get caught ball watching on occasion. His space out gives Seti Osman all the room he needs to rise up to the wing for a catch and shoot three. But by far Warren's biggest weakness as a defender is with navigating screens. Because of his bigger frame and slower speed, he'll routinely get caught up on screens when put in the pick and roll. And to add, he's just not very good at wiggling his body around screeners. The Denver Nuggets repeatedly put Warren in the pick and roll when he was guarding Jamal Murray to excellent results. Try 7 points in 3 possessions for size. Fortunately for Warren, because of how much the Nets switch, it's unlikely he'll have to skate around screens often, if ever, especially when sharing the floor with switchable bigs like Nick Claxton, Ben Simmons, Markieff Morris, and to a lesser degree, Kevin Durant. I did find Warren's screen navigation to be better away from the ball, mostly because he can actually see those screens coming, and I'd even go as far as calling Warren a little bit stingy at stalking sharpshooters and running them off the line. Even in this skill, he has his lapses, and the Minnesota Timberwolves put him in action on numerous occasions by having him navigate this Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins pin down action. Oh, and don't expect Warren to do much as a rebounder. Blue on this chart means below league average, so yikes. As we've seen on both ends, he's just not that physical of a player, meaning it's not really in his DNA to put a body on guys and fight for boards. Overall, I'm about as high as one can be on a vet min signing like this, and TJ has the potential to be one of Brooklyn's 5 to 6 best players on the roster by the end of the year. Offensively, he is the perfect fit next to the stars. A prolific off-ball player, someone who can create for himself on occasion, and he's just a guy that can catch fire at a moment's notice. Defensively, his aggressiveness will greatly behoove Brooklyn, and I could really see the Nets switching scheme hiding maybe some of his biggest weaknesses. Obviously, his performance almost entirely hinges on health, as foot injuries are nothing to trifle with. But if he pans out, well, the Brooklyn Nets may very well have stumbled upon one of the biggest steals of the offseason. But with that, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, and go ahead and share this on Twitter and Reddit. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to head over to my Twitter, as I am a reporter and we are 2-3 weeks away from training camp, so a lot of big things ahead. But that's pretty much all I got today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Peace!